And welcome to the Italian Dolomites winter resort of Alta Badia for the second run of the men's giant slalom. We just catch the action as it begins with the top 30 from the first leg starting this second run in reverse order. And what a superb performance for this newcomer to the World Cup Tour. This is Thibaut Favreau from the French team, 22 years of age, from the Strasbourg ski club. And looking to pick off his first World Cup points, not only of the season, but of his career, Finley. I love it when you see some of the outside numbers break into the top flight. And what's quite special for this young lad, he's only in his fifth World Cup competition, never placed better than 48th position. And as a rookie to the Gran Risa piste here in Alta Badia, one of the toughest GS tracks of the Tour, this young lad surely now is just skiing for the result rather than fancying his chances up against Marcel Hirscher, who will be the last skier to run.
Well, he's got a lot of time difference between him and Marcel Hirscher, but he's giving it a good go in this second run. He's not holding back. And the hill and the slope here in Alta Badia really pulls the athletes down and out of the turn, but he stayed very high and early in his turning line, and the posture and position has stayed strong throughout the whole of the second run.
Well, Alta Badia has found yet another star at just 22 years of age, Favreau for the French team. They've had very little to cheer about in the start of this season. It's been a tough time for the French Ski Federation. Good to see one of their young stars make a breakthrough. And look at this from a start number of 72, Luca Erni of the Swiss team. Luca, a renowned, very well-known slalom racer. But again, Finley, possibly another example of these new skis, 193 centimeters in length, 30 meters in radius, just making giant slalom a little more of an open field competition.
Yeah, the new design shape of skis really allows the slalom skiers to put them on and jump straight into that type of movement, where when they move on the ski, they react much quicker than last year's skis, which were 35-meter radius 195s.
Now, it's a second different pattern of turns and gates set by Wolfgang Erharter from the Austrian ski team. Now, as Erharter set a course that has been built or designed to favour the technical base skiers, because Hirscher is the winner after the first run and will ski last of all. But if it's tight and technical, it will definitely suit the man on screen, Finley.
Yeah, definitely keeps the work going. It's very physically demanding on the legs, and Luca's staying ahead of it great through to the lower section.
It's a typical Gran Risa course set, rolling terrain, blind gates set on the backside. That little jump that you see there will play a pivotal part of the parallel giant slalom tomorrow. And look at Luca Erni. He's punching the air, first giant slalom points of the season. And Erni, who was the combined world champion of the Worlds in St. Moritz back in February, starting to show that his skiing skills are developing across all of the disciplines of alpine racing. Another youngster looking for his first World Cup points of his career on the second leg of this men's slalom, finishing in 28th position after the first run, is Johannes Strolz in only his 7th World Cup giant slalom. And this is what we look at with awe and admiration of the Austrian ski team, Finley. They've just got such strength in depth. There are about 15 or 20 potential Marcel Hirschers just behind the world number one, waiting for their chance to shine. And here's another case in example.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why Marcel Hirscher skis so well in the big races, because he's been pushed by so many other Austrians in training. He has to be on his A game on every day of his training runs in the preparation for the bigger race days.
And he really does use that strength and depth. Scott, oh, come on. Oh, and what a disappointment for the young Austrian. Strolz just going down on the inside ski, straddling the gate. He thought he'd made the recovery, but he missed it by a couple of centimetres. And that's such a shame, coming in from a start number so high, missing his chance here.
Yeah, he was definitely going for it, trying to take that speed out onto the lower flats, but there's no room for error here today.
So here's Alexander Schmid from the German team. Now, Schmid finishing the first run in 27th position. let me bring you right up to date with the news on Stefan Lutz. For those of you that were with us on the first run, the top German GS racer of the season so far took a stumble, and they fear that it may be a cruciate ligament issue. He's already in the car, heading home, back for an X-ray and a closer inspection. Finley, it's been a tough day for Team Germany. Vicky Riebensberg went down in the Women's Super G, and there is a rumour going around that she too has picked up a knee injury in that Super G over in Val d'Isère. Yet another clear example. It's a dangerous sport, ski racing.
Yeah, and Stefan Lutz's wasn't even a crash. It seemed quite innocuous. It was like the ski caught on the snow surface. We have icier conditions lower down on the Grand Riesa today, but quite aggressive, hard, packed snow at the top. It seemed to catch him off balance, and it really gave an awkward shunt to the knee, and he definitely grabbed it like it looked like there's something not quite right in there.
And here is Alex Schmid, well, just looking to bring some more positive stories for the German ski team today. 0.97 off the pace, into third position. Luca Erni leading for Switzerland. With Luca Erni in top position, Finley, it brings back memories of those World Championships. I don't know if you can remember in St. Moritz, didn't he go first of all in the slalom, went all the way through and won the Alpine combined?
Yeah, absolutely. Those conditions were slightly different that day because he took the best opportunity in those softer snow conditions, and he had a flyer over running that slalom.
Let's take a close look at the Croatian's top skier on the World Cup Tour these days, Filip Zubcic. You have to go back to 2011 to find the last magical moment for the Croatian Ski Federation, when, of course, Ivica Kostelic won the overall World Cup Tour title.
Yeah, this is looking good for Zubcic down here. He's giving himself more space off the gates in the first run. He made a few mistakes. That's why he's finding himself a little bit further back in the top 30 than he was hoping to be. But this looks like he's giving himself more space to do the work before the turn. But that's too much space.
Oh, and Zubcic is unable to get away with that one. Well, he comes out of the plume of snow, and I think he's gone the correct way through all of the gates, but his chances of taking the lead away from the Swiss skier Luca Erni have disappeared. Finley, I want you to look at the light a little bit, because it's starting to get grey in the cloud, very white in the snow, and that flat light is making it just a little extra difficult to view and read the terrain and condition.
Yeah, there's so many undulations here on the Grand Riesa of Alta Badia, and with that flat light conditions, with the clouds, it's hard to see the variation of terrain.
Powering out of the gate for the Russian team is Alexander Andrienko. Now, Andrienko, I'm sure, would be the first person to admit that it's been a bit of a tough 14 days for Russian winter sports athletes, with a lot of nightmare stories and problems involving the skiers not involved in any of those accusations or drug bans. But the skiers are very fearful, Finley, that it's going to put pay to their support, because Russia is now being taken out as a nation from the Winter Olympic Games. Andrienko is hoping to qualify, but the coaching support, the backup, all disappearing very quickly for the Russian winter sports skiers.
Yeah, it's very difficult for the athletes who really only want to be focusing on the racing, and there's so much that they have to focus on the racing, but this is the external factors that are starting to take the fore in his mind. Who is going to coach him out there? How is that going to work? But today, focusing on his GS skiing right now, he really wants to be going, because he's skiing fantastically well.
Yeah, Andrienko almost trying to make a statement here, and he's in the points for the first time this season. He's taken the lead by 0.77, lowers the target time to 2:28.63 over the two legs. That's a fine performance from Andrienko. May well be a personal best. Never skied faster than 16th position in World Cup competition to date. Of course, we keep working our way through the quicker skiers from the first leg. Look at the graphic, very briefly coming up on screen, telling us that Gino Caviezel from Lenzerheide in Switzerland has 0.05 of a second advantage over the new Russian leader, Andrienko.
Gino looking very explosive in the opening turns. He's really pinching the line as tight as he can to the gates, but he's not blocking himself. He's able to carry the speed through all of the turns so far.
25 years of age now, Gino Caviezel, and two World Cup point scores in the opening races of the season. 15th in Val d'Isère last weekend, looking to break into the top 10 here today. This is a tight technical set in the mid part of the track here, Finlay. So little room for error.
There's just no room, and the slope is up to 40% degrees down, so as it falls away from you, you really have to be ahead of the gates. You can't let any mistakes happen, and it's so key to keep the skis on the snow surface.
Off the back of the first blind roller, now Caviezel just takes the little jump, a little skip over, gets those skis back onto the snow, and now dips for the finish line. Caviezel goes into runner-up position, just under 6/10 off the pace of Andrienko from Russia, still leading.
5, 4.
Tommy Ford for the United States of America, next to go. Now, Tommy, 25 years of age. An impressive 10th position in the first GS of the men's tour in Beaver Creek, Colorado, his home race. But he's in all kinds of trouble on these opening turns.
Yeah, it just looked like he didn't get the balance of the snow right. He'd had the first run, but those gates straight out of the start area are much more set across the hill. And he's really fighting to get the edge grip. The skis don't seem to be connecting well with the snow surface.
You can see the ski being chattered and bounced as he brings it underneath the body, pushes the feet forwards and out to the side to start the new turn. And it's so important to have that clean, smooth arc, and to have that arc nice and high and have the ski fully flexed before you get to the gate.
He's out.
He's been battling from the start gate, just never found the rhythm, Finlay.
Yeah, didn't find the rhythm, and what's so key, Tommy Ford has huge hip angles. He needs to build a platform, and by a platform I mean the edge needs to be solidly on the ground before he can bring his body all the way inside, and he just didn't seem to have that. That's why the skis kept sliding away from him, because he didn't have grip on that outside ski.
This is one of the toughest racetracks on the men's giant slalom tour, and your technique needs to be right out of the textbook to succeed here, and possibly even more than that to take the victory. Now, recording his first career podium here last season in this very race, Italy's Florian Aissat took third spot with Mathieu Fevre in runner-up position, and Hirscher, of course, taking his fourth straight victory. But Florian also caught out by that tough midsection on the first leg. Here's a skier trying to make amends.
He's got some good balance going through these opening turns, really feathering the top of the turn, and when he attacks the new 30-meter GS ski and puts the power through them, wow, do they come around.
This is a much better top section than he had earlier today. Now, 33 years of age, Aissat still with work to do. If you look at the graphic, he started off with a 0.34 advantage, and he's now plus 0.26. So the Italian's lost half a second as he comes into the next halfway split time here. Takes the terrain change, break and rhythm change very smoothly. 0.29. Well, we've seen racers find 3/10 on these lower turns, but Aissat needs to dig deep now, really find some strength and power on these closing turns.
Yeah, the fitness, I think, is going to be key in this second run. These are much more physically demanding turns into the finish.
Italy take the lead. Italy missed the lead by 0.22 of a second. 2:28.85 puts Florian Aissat into runner-up position, but still 21 races to go. Here's the young rising star out of the Swiss team, Loïc Meillard. He's been picking up World Junior Championship silver medals for as long as he can remember, of course behind Henrik Kristoffersen, Finlay. But as he starts to come of age, just turning 21, he's put some impressive results down. Top 10 in slalom, top 10 in Beaver Creek, Colorado giant slalom. This lad's got all the skills, still got a bit of filling out to do, I would say, Finlay. He could still do with a bit more power and strength.
Yeah, he seems to have a real snappy move at the end of the turn, and very similar to Henrik Kristoffersen, skiing on the same Rossignol skis as well. He's a lot of acceleration he generates without looking like he's putting too much power down through the skis. Skis more with that subtle balance.
But at 21 years of age, this young lad has a real future ahead of him, and all he needs to do is keep injury free and keep learning the game. 0.26 is well well within Meillard's capabilities here. Just needs to try and find that power that he will develop as he gets older and stronger. Now the Swiss racer off the little jump and roller. This is the first time he's raced World Cup competition here in the Dolomites, and he's missed it by a quarter of a second. Loic Meillard into third position. 19 races still to go, with almost half a second's advantage over the current leader Andrienko from Russia. This is Andrei Mura. Mura already with a podium performance against his name this season in the slalom last Sunday in Val d'Isère, France. Back on Sunday, I should say, it wasn't last Sunday. And that third position has given Mura real confidence that he's showing with his giant slalom as well. He's lost a little bit, but not too much. Just shaving off 0.05 of a second when many before him have lost over half a second at this point.
Oh, he was right on the limit coming to that undergate and double pole, slamming the gate, cross-blocking a GS panel. We don't often see that in giant slalom racing when he's using the hands to get that gate out of the way because he was running so late in the line.
That cross block, he'll be using that technique in tomorrow night's parallel giant slalom from Alta Badia. But now he got to make up, because from 0.43, the right side of the clock, he's over half a second, the wrong side, and it's grown to 0.86. The big man from Sweden and former World Cup slalom champion back in 2012, Andrei Mura. Damage limitation now, just needs to pull off a few points. Tucks for the line, stops the clock in 6th position, 2:29.52, but yet another clear example that there is so little room for error on this tight technical racetrack in Italy. Roberto Nani next on course for Italy, joint 19th position with Mura after the first run. Nani was flying on that opening leg earlier today, only to make a big mistake in the mid part of the challenge. If Nani can keep this clean and error-free, he should take the lead away from Andrienko. Yeah, Roberto has the skill set and he's able to get really low down. Not the biggest of athletes, a bit of pocket rocket style, but he's able to generate so much speed from the skis. And this being a more offset course, being more attacking and nimble is definitely of benefit. A wonderfully dynamic style. Still with the green light at split time interval 2 by 0.17 of a second. Remember, green tells us he's faster, red tells us that he has work and time to make up. Coming into split time interval 3 here, you see the Longines box on course, and it's gone. The light is now to red, 0.9 off the pace. And the course is starting to look a little rough and rutted on the lower turns already, and we're not at halfway. Off the jump. And Roberto Nani, 2:28.63 is the Italian's target, 2:28.85 into runner-up position. Andrienko of Russia sees off another challenger. Mathieu Favre for France is next on course. Now, Mathieu, former world junior champion, was runner-up to Marcel Hirscher in this race last season and actually finished in runner-up position in the Giant Slalom Tour standings for the 2017 season. So, a disappointing first run for Mathieu, particularly with his coach setting the course, only finishing in 18th position. Surely he's going to take the lead now, Finn. Yeah, this is more like the expectations we have for Mathieu in the second run. He's not made any errors. He's really strong on that new ski and he's staying ahead of it. Really taking the power through these tougher turns. Watching the skis get that grip. He's no snow coming out the edge of the skis. 4th position in the giant slalom last weekend in Val d'Isère. Mathieu now 0.52. Starts to find a very good, strong, powerful rhythm. Comes off the first of the blind gate and rollers and still carrying good speed here. Sets himself up for the little flight and then back down with ski contact to the snow. 2:28.63 has been tumbled. France take the lead from Russia by 0.31 of a second. The new target time, 2 minutes 28.32.
He'll be happier with that second run performance. That's more like what we're coming to expect from him.
I think he'd be kicking himself, Finley, that he didn't get it together on the first, because that is a very competitive second leg from the French racer. Eric Reed is out on course for Canada, 17th fastest from the first run. Now the time advantage changes quite dramatically. Just 700ths of a second, all over for Reed. 8 turns into the challenge. Well, he's done a full spin and started again. That's within the rule book. But you can see from split time interval 1, he's at 3.5 seconds down, and the Canadians' chances have gone.
It really shows how technically challenging the Grand Riza is, because we talk so much about Eric Reed doing perfect textbook skiing, and even Eric Reed can't hold it all together because he's getting thrown out of position.
We all remember Thomas Grandy winning here for Canada. And Eric Reed had such high hopes coming into this competition to be in the top flight. But as our expert in the commentary box has pointed out, this is the Grand Riza, one of the most historical, but also one of the most difficult GS race piste. Maybe not the steepest, and maybe not the iciest, but it's this changing terrain, how it turns around, flows, ebbs and drops, that make this such a difficult one.
And there's a mistake, just getting stuck on the ski with the body inside and having to go completely a 360 to get back into the course.
Stefan Brennsteiner. Now, Brennsteiner, from a start number of 47, skiing into 16th position. He's never been better than 23rd in a World Cup competition. This could be a big day for the young Austrian.
Yeah, with the Austrian course setter Wolfgang Erharter, he really has set such a physically difficult course, but that's within the belief and the faith that he has with his athletes of how fit and strong that they're going to still have the energy.
I think this course looks perfect for Marcel Hirscher.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would want to bet against Marcel right now. But this is solid skiing from Brennsteiner, 0.39 off the pace of the world number 2 in giant slalom, Mathieu Febvre. And Mathieu will watch this young lad very carefully. New name, no matter what the outcome. This is a career best, a CB for Brennsteiner into runner-up position, and his celebrations begin. Now there's a Christmas present that he was hoping for.
Bora, the revolution continues. Extracting vapors without a cooker hood. Effective and silent.
I love this cooking revolution. That's Bora.
Find your winter in Korea. Draw your winter story in Pyeongchang 2018.
Welcome back to Alta Badia in the Italian Dolomites, are part of the Dolomiti Superski area. At the halfway point, Mathieu Febvre for the French team is in top position. The target time for the 2 legs is 2 minutes 28.32 seconds. 15 still to ski, and the first out of the gate will be Mani Mulg of Italy. Now Mulg has got good form here on the Gran Risa piste, but with the slalom skis on Finley and not the giant slalom boards. So this is a very tough set on the second leg by one of the Austrian coaches, Wolfgang Erharter. It's more technical, less room for error, and a real physical challenge for today's giant slalom races. We think it's set perfectly for Marcel Hirscher, but I fear Finley, one or two in these last 15s are going to find this just a little too tough.
Yeah, and Manny already on the third gate on that left foot ski, struggling to get the edge down and build that platform, but he's starting to get the feel for the snow now, and a lot more consistent turns starting to happen where the distance down the hill is only 23 meters, but the swing across is massive.
I have to say, I love it. It is such a test. The World Cup Tour is the pinnacle of alpine ski racing. This is where we have the toughest tracks. This is where we have the toughest course set. It was a wonderful downhill in Val Gardena yesterday, and this is a classic in Alta Badia here today, as Mani Mulg now digs deep and tucks tight for the line. The Italian can only manage 7th position. Roberto Nani is the best of the Italians, actually tying with Florian Eissat in 4th position. But the runner-up in this race last year, Mathieu Fevre, leads with his teammate Victor Mouffa-Jondet in the start gate. Now Victor has a 0.3 of a second advantage over his teammate. And of course, Finley, they train together, they travel together, they are government supported together, but there are no team rules for alpine races when it comes to pushing through that wand and getting out on piste.
Yeah, once the clock starts turning, it's all about living in the moment and taking all of the right blend of tactics and risks down the Gran Risa. And tactics that on the second run are a little bit different to the first run because it is non-stop hard work the whole way.
Yeah, Mouffa-Jondet just struggling, like many before him, to get the clean purchase against the arcing ski on those top turns. And again, you can see him being bounced and jutted in the racing line. And that's not the effective clean carve that the skier is hoping for or trying to achieve from turn to turn.
Yeah, they're just having to fight so hard to bring the skis around quick enough to stay ahead of the line because the gates are set so far across the hill. And that's why they have to check and get that bouncing going on, because they believe that they could miss the next gate.
Well, to give a little bit of credit to the racers, the piste is looking a little rough and bumpy, and that cutting up of the racetrack is caused by each and every one of the skiers following the same racing line. But 1.32 off the pace for Victor Mouffa-Jondet of France. That's a little disappointing, more so for him than us, but that's not what the French racer was hoping for.
See the focus in his eyes, trying to beat the piste.
Riccardo Tonetti, another chance for Italy, with just Luca Di Aliprandini to ski after Tonetti. So only 2 Italian skiers left in the second run. Max Blardoni, of course, Italy's last winner back in 2011.
Very nice turns on the top from Riccardo, skiing in the middle to the heels and the balance, but then there's a mistake from that body posture position. Oh, he's missed the outside of that red turning panel on the undergate.
He decides to walk back up. That's within the rules, Finley, so he'll not be disqualified, but chances of putting down a respectable result have clearly gone, and he just needs to be careful now to keep his concentration, not take a second tumble.
Yeah, he looks to be just trying to make the finish area to claim a few of the points that he'll get if he ends around 30th. And it's a great shame because the energy of the run at the top, he had the green light at the second intermediate, he was taking the risks, but he wasn't on the front of the boot enough, and that's why the tip started to bounce away from him and he lost it on the inside.
30th position gets 500 euros. So maybe it's worthwhile finishing after all, because if you're a DNF, a did not finish, or a DQ, that's 0 euros. So understandably, with already a couple of DNFs in the top, or the first early starters, just walking back up and then finishing off the run, by the end of the day, you may walk away with 850, never mind 500.
Yeah, it's so quickly how it can go wrong in giant slalom skiing.
Good to see Roland Leitinger starting to make his way back up the rankings. He took the silver medal in the World Championships back in February in St. Moritz, Switzerland. Hasn't really backed up that form since, and that's something that can often play in the back of any athlete's mind. A big medal on the big occasion, but on the week-in, week-out work of the World Cup, just struggling to mix it with the big names.
Yeah, each of these sets to the new turning ski seems to be a little unsettled. He doesn't have the full confidence in what's going to happen through the turn. It's almost as like he's making a double action movement through the turn. You want to be a clean, progressive build in the turn to get the acceleration. He seems to throw the edge on, not quite sure, and then hammer at the end of the turn, and that's not the quickest way down the mountain.
0.11. Let's see if Roland Leitinger, funnily enough, this is exactly how he skied in the World Championships back in February, with a very good late run charge on the closing turns. 0.11 could put the Austrian racer into a podium position, even top spot, as Leitinger, oh, that is unlucky. 0.04 of a second off the pace of the French leader into runner-up position. That's a big performance for Leitinger, who's been struggling with his confidence, and he's put himself right back where he needs to be. Pinturault is next to go, winner of the last giant slalom on the men's World Cup Tour. The most successful French male alpine skier, with 20 victories against his name. He's not the most French racer of all time. Carole Mel, back in the 80s, took her tally to 22 World Cup victories. But Pinturault, for me, Finley, looked a little frustrated, angry with his first run, as he did in Val d'Isère last week, and as he does again, putting on what to me looks like a pretty healthy second run charge.
Yeah, sometimes the athletes, especially Pinturault, can use that inner disappointment to turn it into anger, to really drag a brilliant performance out of himself. But on the second run, yeah, good, clean turns. Very strong work into that new, and he's staying ahead of the line, ahead of the course so far.
Now, Mathieu Febvre, the current leader, great buddies with Pinturault. They trained and raced together for many years as juniors. Pinturault had the breakthrough in the senior ranks that little bit earlier, and Pinturault may have to settle for runner-up position to his buddy here, or can he find the Roland Leitinger line on the lower section? Because this is where the Austrian, who currently lies in runner-up position, really let those skis fly. And Pinturault now tucks, dips for the line, and he's got it by a 1/10 of a second, 2:28.22. That's what we love about Pinturault's style and technique. He fights for every turn, through every gate, and the reward for the Frenchman, top position.
Yeah, he absolutely does not know how to give up.
Luca de Ali Prandini with his mum and dad in the crowd there. The director just caught his mum with a lovely shot. She can already not bear to look up the mountain. So Ali Prandini finishing the first run in 10th position, but perhaps most importantly, Finley, last chance for the host nation, Italy, to take the win here today.
He's going very wild for it on these top turns, but they're inch perfect so far. Really chopping the line out of the top of the turn.
I love the way this lad skis, rides the middle and tail of the ski with such precision and accuracy, and if he can find the rhythm, and as Finlay was describing to us earlier today, this pendulum flow to the course, it's a very effective style and technique. Look at him feathering the skis from gate to gate to try and find that optimum line before he punches the turn out. And let's take a look at the clock. Oh, it's a lovely ski from Ali Prandini. The Italians are roaring him through the lower section. Oh no, almost goes down on the blind roller. Has that cost him a podium place?
He still seems to have the speed. It was on the last steep that he made his mistake.
Ali Prandini takes it by 0.3 of a second with a big error, 8 turns from home, 2:27.92. That's got the Italians on their feet. His mom takes her hands away from her eyes to see that her son has gone into top spot.
That is a run of upping it to your maximum. Just so aggressive and right on his limit, having to use the inside hand to push himself back up and onto his outside ski.
Well, that's not the way to ski giant slalom or a blind roller, but Ali Prandini there defying gravity and inertia to take top position. Italy, France, and France in the podium place positions, but it could be back to the lead for Team France with Thomas Fanara out on course now. Fanara, who's been placed third here on the Gran Risa race piste of Alta Badia twice before. The question mark for me, Finlay, is he back to full fitness and is he race sharp, having missed almost a full year of competition through injury?
Yeah, we were talking about it in the first run as well, getting the timing back from floating the ski to punching it, getting the timing back to be very precise on these really challenging turns which are swinging all the way across the hill. I mean, he's skiing well, but it doesn't seem to quite have that killer edge right now.
Let's see if Fanara can pull something out on this lower section. Oh, you can see just losing the pressure against the turning ski as he tries to make the transition for the next turn. There is no question that Fanara, slowly but surely, is getting back to his best. He's in the podium position. He's just missed it. Fanara into 6th position, with Luca de Ali Prandini leading here in Alta Badia with just 8 races left to go.
Are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true.
Welcome back to Alta Badia, second run of the men's giant slalom. 8 skiers left to go, each and every one of them with an advantage over the current leader from Italy. Luca di Ali Prandini sets the target time over the 2 legs at 2 minutes 27.92, with the best of the French ski team in 2nd and 3rd position. There are no more Italian or French skiers left in the remaining 8 to challenge the track. And the last man of those 8 skiers will be Marcel Hirscher, looking for his 5th successive win here. But it's Norway next in the gate. And of course, Norway, who had such an amazing day in the downhill 24 hours ago in Val Gardena, where Axel Lund Svindal took top position and his 2nd downhill win of the season, and Jansrud, his great friend and teammate, in runner-up spots. So let's see if Hågen can keep this impressive performance for the Norwegian team in the Italian Dolomites alive. He's got a double-edged sword, or a dual task, I suppose, is a better word, Finley here. Needs to take the lead away from Ali Prandini. That's pretty straightforward, but also open up as big a gap as he can to put the pressure on the 7 skiers to follow him.
Yeah, Leif Christian is really taking the risks, and that's what it's all about in the second run for these last 8. Are they going to take the risks to aim for the top spot of the podium?
Well, for those of you that are a little confused as to why Horgan has now added Nestvold to his name, well, he got married in the summer, and so many of the ladies do it on the women's tour, so Leif thought he'd do it on the men's tour. But to us, it's Leif Christian Horgan, and just struggling to keep that turn high and smooth, and that's where he's lost his advantage. Now finds himself 0.54 off the pace.
He's going a little bit too straight at some of these gates where he's having to reset the edge, and that's why we can see the snow flying up off the skis.
2:27.92 remains the fastest. 2:28.27, third position. Horgan will take that. It'll be his first top 10 result of the 2018 tour. Maybe not a spot on the podium by the end of proceedings, but his best result of the season to date.
The super slow-mo picking up the key turns into the final pitch onto the flat undergate, really where you start to let the speed roll.
Six podiums here, 2 victories in giant slalom. Ted Ligety for the United States of America. Now, Ted, on the comeback from injury whilst away from competition, became a proud father to his son, Jax. This man has won it all. The Giant Slalom World Championship title, 3 golds, 2 Olympic gold medals, 1 in combined, 1 in Giant Slalom, of course, and 24 victories in this discipline to his name. It's not quite as sharp as maybe yesteryear, but Ted's words, not mine, Finley. This is work in progress, with the peak form for Ligety hoping to come in Pyeongchang in February at the Winter Olympic Games, not necessarily here today.
Yeah, what Ted does is so special, and why he's been such a champion in giant slalom is he really develops a huge hip angle so early in the turn, but that's very hard to get away with. And if the skis aren't gripping perfectly, then it can throw you out of balance. He's been very much in control so far, but this is high risks in these key turns at the end of the main steep.
Yeah, Ligaty's lead is bleeding away from 4/10 to 0.23 to 0.03 of a second. So this will be the key split, and he keeps that green light. Ligety could take the lead from... Oh, Ligety catches the edge, almost gave up, but just managed to fall back into position and keep his momentum going. But has that put pay to the Americans' chances? 2:27.92, target time for Ligety. Ligety 2:27, he's there! 65! Ligety, is he back to his winning ways on the comeback from injury? Ted Shred is getting better and better with every race. I thought he was going to go down on the last section, the last rhythm change, but that was a spectacular recovery.
He's so good at saving it, and he just always has that hand lying on the snow ready to push him back up when he does get into trouble.
Ligety leads. Ali Prandini applauds and pushed down to second position. Pantero in third spot. 6 to go. Mats Olsen, the advantage over Ligety from the first run, just 0.17 of a second. 2 top 10 results for Olsen. He's hoping today is the day that he breaks into the top 5, and of course potentially for the Swede onto the podium. 2 podium positions for the Swede last season. He's yet to win one, and if you can win on the Gran Risa in Alta Badia, well, it's the highlight of any giant slalom skier's career. All the greats have won here. Girardelli, Stenmark, Gustavo Toni, von Groningen, all of the giant slalom skiers of yesteryear. Tomba 4 times. And this is why they call it the Holy Grail. 0.11. Now, work to do for Olsen. And I'm a little surprised here, Finley. I thought this tight technical set would suit the Swede style.
Yeah, he's really using a lot of upper body movement, trying to get the hands to get out of each of the turns because he's hit so far inside it, but the skis seem to be just bouncing around slightly, but this is better turns now.
He's coming strong towards the end of the challenge. Has the Swede deceived us and left a little extra in the closing turns here? Nice low position, confident off the jump. Now looks to search for the line. Here he goes, tucks tight, and Olsen, 400ths off the pace of Ligeti into second position. And for the Swede, that's a little painful. It'll be his best result of the season so far. He, like so many, getting quicker and better with every race that he enters, but just missing Ted Ligeti to take the lead. Five left to challenge. America, Sweden and Italy hold on to the podium positions, but each and every one of those 5 skiers left to challenge have an advantage over Ligeti, who leads. And this is Switzerland's last chance of taking the race here today. Justin Morissier, 0.26 of a second ahead of Ligeti, 5th fastest. No strange territory for Morissier. Finished 5th in Beaver Creek, Colorado. First giant slalom of the men's tour. But that was a PB. Nothing better than kick-starting a season's campaign with a personal best in giant slalom. And having come 5th in the season opener, Morissier is out here today looking for the first podium of the 2018 tour. Oh, he's in trouble though. Good recoveries, keeps the momentum going. He'll lose some time, but maybe not at all.
Yeah, another cross block we see when the athletes are getting out of control. Morissier just cutting the line off and smashing the gate out of his way with his arms, but that costs him by 0.3. But when he does put his skis down on the snow, he is able to really accelerate from one turn to the next.
Well, he knows he's made that mistake. He knows he's got to play a little bit of catch-up here. Coming into split time interval 3. And he whittles away, 0.15. Has that error on the top part of the challenge just given Morissier the extra motivation that he needs? We've seen skiers make a 10th, even more on these lower turns. This is the last chance for Switzerland to take the win here in Italy. And Morissier is there. What a beautiful closing section. And what a classic example of a big mistake at the top, fires the momentum for the rest of the challenge, and the reward for Justin Morissier, top spot with 4 to go.
Yeah, you need to live in the moment in World Cup ski racing. Mistakes will happen when you're right on the edge. And this was his mistake, that getting the hands to get the gate out of the way, but the turns at the bottom of the steep were just perfect. The acceleration he created from his skis.
Switzerland haven't won here in Alta Badia since 2008. Danny Albrecht with the Ivica Kostelic in runner-up spot behind him. Ligeti says goodbye to the Audi red hot seat as Switzerland and Morissier go into the leaders' enclosure. 4 skiers to go, Austria, Slovenia, Norway, and then the world number 1 from Austria. Feller is the first of the quartet out on course. Now, Manu Feller has surprised us all in the early part of this season with his giant slalom skills. We've had him down as an out-and-out slalom specialist, but he's got the same gambling, aggressive, risk-taking style in GS as he has in slalom. Finley, if he can stay on his skis, he'll take the lead, but staying on the skis is the issue with Manu Feller.
Yeah, Manny takes the huge risk, and we saw 3 or 4 massive mistakes on the first run, but then he was so fast on the rest of his turns. He just pinches the line so tight, gets so quickly into the gate, and he doesn't mind slamming the gates out of his way.
And this is what we're going to see. It goes green, it goes red, it goes green. He's all over the place, Manu Feller. Such an exciting racer to watch. He reminds me a little bit of Bodie Miller when he was young, who would steal an inch to gain a mile. And here comes Manu Feller. Now, just looking a little tired. Light goes red from green. But don't worry, Feller will find that up on these lower turns. Can Austria take the lead away from Switzerland? Feller regains the high line.
This could have been too close to call. He can generate a lot of speed, but he's had some scrappy mistakes as well.
And the Austrian misses it. 0.26 off the pace. 4th position. He's furious with himself, punching the finish area. protection banners. But I think that's what Manu Fella needs, Finley, to be honest. Just a couple of podiums, a couple of solid results, just so he'll calm it down a little.
It's hard as a coach to tell someone to calm it down when he can be one of the fastest in the world over 3 gates, but we have more than 3 gates on a whole GS run.
And 3 is the magic number because there are still 3 to go. Slovenia, Norway and Austria. Jan Kranjec for Slovenia. It's been 46 years since a Slovenian has won a World Cup giant slalom. Boris Strel in Cortina back in 1981. This young lad has the same skills and determination of the great skiers of the 80s from former Yugoslavia and Slovenia. Bojan Križaj, Boris Strel, to name but a few, as younger Jan Kranjec looks to put Slovenian skiing back on the map here. The advantage has been whittled away by 0.13 of a second, but a green light is a green light so far in the challenge.
Great early pressure he has on his skis. He really just seems to have more time than everybody else because he's so quickly out of one turn and building on the next. And that's why we see such a huge green light by 0.53.
Beautiful turns here. This is how he skied the first leg. Now, in the tight technical turns, you've called it perfectly, Finley. Look at the technique. He's early, he's got time, he's got space between the gates that no other racer has had to this point in the challenge. Watch for the green light. It's very impressive. Over 4/10 quicker than the current leader, Nolissier of Switzerland, and he looks to be holding his nerve and looking strong.
Yeah, the speed is still rolling out onto the flats.
Now, just needs to hold the form, carry the speed. Slovenia take the lead by a 1/4 of a second. Kranjec is guaranteed a place on the podium, his first ever career podium. The Slovenian fans who've come across the border delighted. The journey worthwhile. Kranjec skiing textbook technique to near perfection.
Yeah, just beautiful turns. He looks to have all the time in the world because he's so in control of the release of the turn. Nothing wild happening, just pure power at the right time.
Is that good enough to give Slovenia their first World Cup giant slalom victory on the men's tour for 46 years? 2 to go, Norway and Austria. Kristoffersen, the first man. Now, Henrik Kristoffersen has already proved his giant slalom form, skiing into second position behind Marcel Hirscher in the first GS of the tour in Beaver Creek, Colorado. Kristoffersen, he's been on the podium here in giant slalom before as well, back in 2015. What I'm trying to get to, Finley, is he, like the rest of the world's best, loves the challenge of this racetrack.
Yeah, Kristoffersen has that magic touch, that soft control of power. He doesn't look over-powerful, but he has the sense and the feel when the power's needed and when he needs to release the ski. And right now he's releasing the ski well.
Green light, 0.29, one of the few skiers to build on his advantage from the start hut into the first split time interval. He builds again to 0.35. First little wobble we see from Kristoffersen, just getting pitched slightly onto the rear of the skis. But again, his slalom skills give him an amazing speed of recovery, and Kristoffersen still looking smooth, clean, error-free from gate to gate.
He's had a couple of heavy edge sets, but that's not cost him in time. He's still 0.28 ahead.
Does he have the strength? This is where the legs begin to burn. The lactic acid makes it difficult. There's a very heavy edge from Kristoffersen. Now he sees the finish line. 2 gates to take in, Norway or Slovenia, and the Norwegian takes the lead. Very close indeed. 0.12 is the advantage, but that is the lowest total over the 2 legs. 2:27.12. Henrik Kristoffersen of Norway into top position with 1 racer left to challenge.
Oh. Here we go in the super slow-mo. We can hear Henrik in the finish really struggling physically. He had some great recoveries. He got thrown out of balance many times, but there is no perfect balance in World Cup racing. You have to risk, which means you are going to get thrown off balance.
Now Kristoffersen, is it first or second? Because here comes the great man, Marcel Hirscher. Now Hirscher looking for his second giant slalom win of the season, his third World Cup victory of the season, to take his tally to 47. He's won 23 World Cup GS races, is today number 24, and will he become the new record holder here on the Gran Risa with 5 back-to-back victories, going one better than the great Alberto La Bomba Tomba.
Very powerful turns on the top from Hirscher, accelerating in time point 3.9 ahead, and in the first run he got his tactics spot on. Can he get them spot on again in the second?
Finley, for me, near perfect execution on those top turns. We are yet to see a mistake. Even the smallest of errors are not there for Hirscher, and he builds again from 0.39 to 0.41. Confidence, understandably, at an all-time high, but the technique and the way he's got the measure of this course is brilliant.
Yeah, great turns to exit the steep section, still ahead of the course whilst generating speed. So difficult to do.
World number 1 is giving us an exhibition here in Alta Badia, because look at Hirscher go here. Little wide on the roller, but 1.13. This is quite remarkable yet again. Hirscher has got it in the bag. Win number 5, and the margin is huge. 1.7 seconds, the right side of the clock for Marcel Hirscher. An emphatic victory for the defending giant slalom champion. Can anybody stop Hirscher in this kind of form? Exceptional performance for his 3rd win of the season and the 47th victory of his career.
He just went down that second run like there was no rut in the snow whatsoever, skiing his own line, powering it out when he had to, and 1.7 in giant slalom racing. That is massive.
Look at all the coaches at the top of the race piece, watching on their little monitor, looking at each other in dismay. 1.7. Great performance from Kristoffersen. I'm so pleased to see Jan Kranjec on the podium for Slovenia in 3rd position. But it is Marcel Hirscher that is the king of the Gran Risa for the 5th successive year. Well, we were talking about the severity of the piste, the difficult conditions, tight technical course setting, and Marcel Hirscher basically makes it look so easy. Hirscher, Kristoffersen and Kranjec, and Hirscher continues to dominate on the Men's World Cup Tour, and 100 points scored today take him back into joint 1st position in the overall standings with Axel Lund-Svinder. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us and come back for the celebrations after these short messages.